We are at beautiful Mill Pond in Milton, Ontario. This morning we're competing with a car alarm.
Yes, we are.
And I'm here with Robert.
Good morning.
And I'm going to ask Robert to pronounce his last name for me.
It's Shingle like the roof.
There you go.
From 3 days ago to kindergarten. Shingle like the roof.
This is Robert's first experience doing outdoor artwork. We were talking about when we first started painting.
Yes.
And I didn't have the camera on at the time. So.
I was 8 and started, I was reading Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the pictures that they drew in there in ink of the monsters and the aliens and the spaceships and all that stuff. And I went, first of all, these look really cool.
Yeah.
Second of all, can I try and make these myself? So ink from a very early age impressed upon me, and it's kind of gone through my entire life. And then fooled around with charcoal, so it's kind of staying with that black and white theme as well. Didn't get into any colors 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like ink 30 plus years.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden
no,
color.
there's nothing wrong with that.
So
people make entire careers off of that. So for artists who are in high school and just starting out and have in their head that this is what they want to do full time,
yeah,
or there's also this other group of people that I find that have had a career, are retiring from it, and want to pursue their actual dream of being an artist. What kind of advice do you have for those two groups? What have you learned?
I would say for the high school one, it's invest in the portfolio.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing, is understand what the admission requirements are to get into art school. Also, what it is that you're like what are your goals?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to do OCAD or Sheridan or something else like that. I'm sure there's other art schools as well. Why are you doing it? But also think about the business aspect of it, marketing yourself. For me, I do so many different types of art. I find some artists, they find one thing that has worked well and sold well, and that's it. That's their lane. And that is perfectly fine because they enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
And it brings them joy. But as long as you're happy doing what you do, but in terms of being a professional and getting yourself out there, I'd say networking is number one.
Yeah.
Understand other artists. You talked about this is, how are people, whether different business models, how are people bringing themselves to market? Mm-hmm. Is it their CV that's important, that they've won this many juried shows and that's what's moving the needle for them? Is it what they're putting on the canvas in terms of the spirit of what they're creating?
Yeah.
And the pain and the joy that went into create, and people can see that? I think it might be a combination of all that stuff.
Yeah.
But really it's artist specific of what's going to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes there's that tipping point that you have to get to that they talk about in business. And I know business is sometimes a taboo thing for artists to talk about.
Yeah.
But if you look at what we're doing in a logical way, it is a business.
Yeah.
So we have to think about it that way. And the tipping point tends to be something that will happen that all of a sudden will bring us more into the spotlight.
For sure.
And it can be the smallest things.
Especially if this is your way of putting food on the table.
Yeah.
And how you're going to accomplish that. Especially, I think the most important thing is setting goals.
Yes.
I want to do X by this point in time, and not just waiting for the world to give you that.
Yes.
Working towards that and breaking down what's it going to take to get to that goal. I set a goal last year, I'm going to sell $1,000 worth of stuff. And I did.
Yeah.
But I did that because I had the paintings to sell, but I also had I set up my own show. I took advantage of an opportunity to set up my own show, and that got me 3/4 of the way right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So what basically you did is you you said, okay, this is my big goal. I want to sell $1,000, but then in order to get there, we also have to sit down and work out the steps, because I think that sometimes where people get lost
Yeah.
is they say, okay, well, my goal is to do X amount of sales, but then they don't actually figure out how they're going to do
Look at
that.
this guy. He got stuck. Off you go. Come on, off you go. No, seriously, off you go.
So you have to kind of sit down and go, okay, well, step one to get to my goal, and then those are like mini goals to get to the bigger goal.
Yeah. One of the most important things I heard from another artist was give the customer options. If you think about it in 3 tiers, there is your $2 to $5, $2 to $10 entry thing, and that could be Christmas cards, that could be postcards, that could be whatever, and those are reproductions of originals.
Yeah.
There was the middle tier was print, so taking those pieces that you have found that people are enamored with and that you could probably sell to 10, 20, 100 people, but then aligning yourself, and so I've done that in town, is align myself with a printer who's a professional art photographer. He's also a printer. He has the 2-meter long printer thing. He can print on canvas or pillows or whatever. So now all of a sudden I've got a mechanism to get the art on lots of different things. And then the last thing is selling the originals.
Yeah.
I've had more success on the first and second tier, not so much on the third, but I'm also very cautious about who I give the originals to.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it's interesting the perception of original artwork for those who purchase artwork. Sometimes they don't understand the value that an original piece.
Right.
I've had other artists that I follow state that an original piece does not ever devalue. In fact, it actually increases in value as time goes by.
Right. And have you ever found that you're selling an original piece and somebody's haggling you on the price?
Sometimes they do, yeah, and then other times they go, okay, that's perfect, and the one time it was actually, he was totally okay with the price, and he said, well, I also want this one over here too. So he ended up walking away with a couple.
It's bundling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. No, there's one painting I made. It took me 150 hours, and no, it was in the shop, and the person phoned me and said, oh, they want to pay. It was $300. It's too low.
Yeah.
It's for the time and investment, because it was 45, 50 hours just to sketch it properly, to get the like for me, I was going more of the realism side, and for all of that investment, and then but then it's still sitting on my wall.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, is it the moment lost, or are you holding out for the right buyer for the right value? I think that's a hard conversation.
It is hard, especially when you're starting out and you have bills to pay.
Yeah.
And you have that conversation with yourself, and then you start thinking, oh, well, my old stuff is no good because I've improved, I've moved on with a different style, and you start reducing the price on that. And then I've had an artist say to me that, would you want to sell a painting for $50 and then have it show up in somebody's garage sale a few years later?
Yeah.
Or would you rather sell it for what it's truly worth, the 200 or whatever, and then that's an incentive for them to keep it and to pass it on to their children and their children's children and that kind of thing, right? So you kind of have to consider that.
Those are great questions.
What kind of art do you normally do, Robert?
Usually doing ink.
Yeah.
Ink on white. So just, I love the risk in it.
Yeah.
In terms of you make a mistake, maybe you can save it, maybe not.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot now with watercolor. Do oil. Acrylic I tried. It's, for some reason I'm not gelling with it.
Yeah.
But I'd say ink number 1, watercolor second, oil third.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And either architectural stuff or landscapes. I've tried portraits. Yeah. The grass is so high. It's probably 2.5, 3 feet now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's herons, there's all of that great stuff, but you just can't access it anymore. It's on a floodplain.
Yeah.
But maybe next time.
Yeah, the Hamilton waterfront is pretty washed out now too. Is that important to you, the environment? Is that something that you
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I went to when I was in high school. I was thinking about art, and then just thought, I'm not sure, I'm not confident it could be a long-term career,
mm-hmm.
which I'm not sure was a missed fork in the road. Um, but I took a lot of geography, environmental science. I got a scholarship. I went to Guelph. I did environmental studies. And then in my last year of school, I found that they were using computers and putting maps into computers to ask questions of the environment.
Yeah.
Where to put a landfill, where to put a housing development. What's the good decision, what's a bad decision.
Yeah.
And I went to college to learn how to use those computers, and then worked out in California for 2 years, and then came back home, and I've been working for the same company for about 18 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for me, I'm actually thinking about intersecting that environmental, that geography, the computers together in art.
Yep.
I just don't know what that looks like right now.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that I find when you force something like that, it never happens. And if you just kind of let it happen organically, and then one day you wake up going, oh, I'm one of these.
Yeah.
I created something for myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just took a 30-day program. It's an alternative MBA. So it's called the Alt MBA. There's a marketing guy named Seth Godin, and he brought people from all these different walks of life. So you're with marketers and CEOs and artists and people that are starting their own businesses,
mm-hmm.
people that are starting their own food companies. And really it's about soft skills. So leadership, critical thinking, how to deal with tension, how to use silence effectively. So especially in negotiating, if somebody's asking you a question and you're silent just a little bit longer, it's almost like you've kind of got the power in the conversation. But in 30 days, they put you in these group settings, and they give you 13 different topics, and you're writing these prompts. I think the biggest thing for me was after you're done each project, you reflect.
Yeah.
And for my 44 years so far, I've never actually looked back. It's always been like the next one, the next one, the next one.
Yeah.
And the power of reflection of what did I learn, positive, negative, what went right, what went wrong, applying a growth mindset. And I'm trying to apply that to the art as well.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 weeks ago I went, I don't care if I fail in this project. And before I did everything possible to make it perfect, which was just creating this stress bubble, this environment, which I think was just, it's too much, right? So
Yeah, I think this whole it's this whole thing that we've all experienced now, this pandemic, for me anyway, it's made me stop and think about what do I really want to do with this short little time that I'm allowed to have on this planet.
Yeah.
And what do I really value? And I think when I read on social media and newspapers and I watch the media do interviews, I think people in general are feeling the same way.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think the pace of life and going very, very fast, and now that everything's kind of slowed down, it's an opportunity. Definitely an opportunity. And you can either shrink from it and kind of just, tighten yourself into a ball, or you can say, am I really focused on the right things?
Yeah.
My goals were this. Does that still make sense in a pandemic type world? And what I'm working on, does that still make sense for me? Should I be doing something differently? Should I adapt? And for me, hats off to all of the small businesses in Milton that shut down for 2 weeks and then all of a sudden came back with online stuff, and they can pick up things, curbside delivery and all that stuff. But I'm sure the stress on them, and now I'm thinking about the artists and how they get their product out there, and for me, for my business, digitizing as much as possible to reach as many people as possible. This video, having online galleries, just kind of going above that physical presence.
Yep.
It's different. You're still having to market yourself and get out to an audience, But I think there's an interesting challenge there for all of us to consider.
Yep. In 10 years from now, where would you like to be?
That's a great question. It's a really great question. I'd like to have the art being a supplemental income. I'm trying to think about what skills I'd like to be at from there. In 10 years, I still want to be doing art. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I want to become more of a seasoned, fine artist. I'm mostly self-taught other than the 5 years of getting mentored. And just keep on practicing and just seeing what amazing creations. I'm really playing around with scale right now.
Mm-hmm.
So postcard size paintings all the way to the full watercolor sheets that you buy at a Curry's or a Michael's or something like that. I did that once. That was a pretty heavy piece of paper to manipulate.
Yeah. You were talking about earlier that you're a self-taught artist,
Mm-hmm.
and you're also wanting to do more classes to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
How important do you think that is to beginning artists to take classes? Do you think that's really important, or do you think, it's not so important?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can definitely buy books. Well, I've got a ton of books on the bookshelf, but there's something about being in a class environment and being with somebody else that's mentoring you or showing you the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be a jumping off point for you to take it in a different direction. So I definitely think that the classes are important. It's just, you're going to be with an artist that you respect, you like the work that they do, all that other stuff.
This is an amazing job.
I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Doing this, meeting another artist, and I've never painted beside another artist before. And I feel no unease, no apprehension going, I'm getting judged, and it's kind of like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
You've
We're
opened
a pretty friendly bunch usually. You have to come out to our group in Hamilton.
I might take you up on that.
Well, thanks very much, Robert. This has been a lot of fun. This is episode 2 of our series, and definitely looking forward to more and more of these as we go along.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.